Good afternoon. I think probably most of y'all know I'm E.W. Dempsey, the Health and Personal Ministries Director for the conference. We're certainly glad you're here. We're here this afternoon to give you any kind of practical help that's possible. We don't know everything, but as we come together, we hope that you'll be learning a lot. We've got a number of interesting speakers this afternoon. We are recording this, so I would ask you to hold any questions and things like that till there's a proper time. This will be on our website, both Health Ministries and Personal Ministries. As we begin, I'm going to read a couple of quotes, and then we'll move right into our first speaker. I think all of us are aware of some of the books that Ellen White has written, we probably, maybe we're not aware of a little book called Help in Daily Living, which is just it's the last chapter of one of her books that's really important. I just want to read this quote. It's in the introduction. A mine of rich gems are there to help us in dealing with ministries, witnessing, in our relationship with the Lord and with other people. And I want to read a quote from this, and it's on page 41 of the little book, and you can get this at the ABC. And it says that a Christian life is more than many take it to be. It is not just being gentle, being patient, being meek, and being kind. These graces are essential, but there is need also of courage, force, energy, and perseverance. And so everywhere I go, I talk about that. Think about those four terms as you're going into your leadership, maybe for the first time, or if you've been doing it for a while. Courage. You know, you're going to hear me talk in a few minutes about the necessity of putting together a team around you so it's not just you. And so whatever direction you're going, it's going to take courage. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make wrong turns. And there's going to be people say, we can't do that. We've never done that before. So this characteristic of courage. And the Lord will give us these things if He says we need it. Secondly, did you notice the word force? Now, some of us think, well, that must mean pushing people around. No. I looked up the synonym on this, and sure enough, Tawan, it talks about mental health, mental force, mental conviction. So we don't swing along with the wind. We don't move back and forth. If you've decided on a direction you're going to go in Health and Personal Ministries, then you're not going to just change, like I said, from day to day. You're going to go in that direction. The third one's very interesting, energy. Because I think we normally think of physical energy. And you're going to hear me talk about that, and we need physical energy. That's why we have the In Step for Life program. That's why I brought it up on the North American Division a few years ago. I said we ought to be leading the world in fitness. And you're going to hear me talk about the In Step program today. We stress three things in this conference. Jim, we stress aerobic, a cardiovascular exercise. The fact that we need to get our heart rate up to 85% of maximum and so forth. Strengthen your heart. There's ways to do it. We'll talk about that. But when was the last time you heard anybody talk about strength training? We have 63 major muscles. The condition of your muscles are going to be a factor in even walking. If you think about the muscles here in your leg, the three there here in your thigh that pull your leg forward. If they're in good shape, it's going to make it easier. And so this is important. And we recognize the necessity of being flexible. Your tendons and ligaments are going to be a factor in this. But this is not talking just about physical health. What about spiritual health? When we're told that we are going to be a Laodicean church, and Jesus would rather us be wide awake or asleep because He didn't want us to be in a sleepy position. Any of you like to ride with somebody that's sleepy? So we're talking about spiritual energy. And the last one is perseverance. Again, setting your direction and continuing with God's help. And the last request I would make on that would be that I would ask you to read Steps to Christ, maybe pages 44 to 47, maybe to 50, 51, where we're plainly told that we need to give our will and our plans to God every single day. I've been thinking about this because I'm right now working on a series of videos for the internet and the Bible study on the 3 days and 3 nights, starting with a Thursday night at the Last Supper, and we know what, if you read Desire of Ages, we know what it says, and then going into Gethsemane, and leading all the way up to Sunday night when he met with the disciples. And we know, matter of fact, the study on the second one dealing with Gethsemane, we've actually called it the humanity's most critical decision, because we're told that Christ was being tempted by Satan to give up, quit, and go back to heaven. And so as I've been looking at that, I've been thinking about that a lot. And as health and personal ministries leaders, you can go out on your own. You may feel pretty smart, you may be pretty talented, you may be gifted. But without the Lord, you're not going to get very far, not very successful. So every day, give your prayer and your will to the Lord. Again, I welcome you here. I welcome any of the committee members, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Right now, let's bow our heads for prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for calling us to spread your word. We know you could send angels, but you've called human beings as weak as we are, as sinful as we are. But Lord, you have promised to send us out with the Holy Spirit to guide and direct and help people. And Lord, we've come this afternoon looking for practical ways to organize and be successful. But most of all, to convict every one of us that we want you guiding every step of the way in everything we do in our church and in our lives. Bless us just now in Jesus' name. Amen. When you come in, you probably found a folder right there on your table. And let me just quickly say something about that, because we will later be looking at it. On the left side, it covers, as it says, health ministries. Right side, personal ministries. And you will find I believe it's light green, that is it has all the information on it for health leaders, and the blue sheet, as you can see on the right side. All I want to say at this point is that hopefully you have a committee that's helping you, so you do not try to do this journey alone. And there will be help in there for both health and personal ministries leaders for helping to put your committee together. And so before we turn to our first speaker, there's 4 characteristics, though, that you will find listed in both categories, health or personal ministries. Number 1, an important characteristic is to be able to develop plans. Now keep in mind that none of us probably have all these characteristics. We may think we do, and if you do, great. You're going to have to plan to be successful. I've always said if you don't plan to succeed, you're going to plan to fail. And so you're going to make plans, long-range and short-range plans. And if you don't have a committee, ask your church board to give you help. Get a balance on there. Not people that agree with you, but people who have the same vision of reaching out to people. And so the first characteristic is to be able to plan. But let's say that you're not very good at planning. Well, then get somebody on the committee that is. Second characteristic, and as I said, it's listed there, is the ability to organize, to make your plans succeed. It's great. We make plans all the time. But how successful are they? Well, it's going to depend on how well you organize. And maybe you're great at organizing. The third one is, once you're organized, who's going to manage it? Another characteristic you need. I hope you see what I'm saying. Bring people around you with this variety. And the fourth one, something we very seldom do, analyze what you've planned and where you are. Unfortunately, sometimes we do the same thing year in and year out. And so let's analyze it, okay? All right, here's the plan. And for those that are just coming in, we did start right at 3 o'clock. We are recording this, because it'll be on our websites both for health and personal ministries. We've already had one training in Tifton, Georgia. We were in Atlanta last week, and we'll be next week in just outside of Knoxville and Oak Ridge, there at Roan Community Church. And so that's where we are, so just hold your questions. As the speakers are speaking, if they say now you can ask a question, you can. Otherwise, it'll be after they're finished and whatever, okay? We will give you a break of somewhere around 3:30 to 3:45. Each speaker that we've asked has 30 minutes, okay? And if they don't finish in 30 minutes, then I'll do something. Anyway, I think they will. Our first speaker is well known, very well known in the Chattanooga area. I'm sure all of you know him if you're from here. We're talking about, in my opinion, the leading cardiologist, and I don't know whatever else he's got behind his name, and he's a very humble and spiritual man, so I'm sure he is not interested in all that anyway. But he has tremendous programs here. He's got a TV program and a lot of things. One of the biggest factors in the Dinner with a Doctor. So I'm glad to introduce right now Dr. Jim Markham.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Markham, and I've been practicing cardiology for over 20 years now. I discuss health issues with patients every day at the office, and I try to help each patient grow to experience the best possible outcome. But the longer I practice medicine, the more evident it becomes that what I was taught in medical school didn't show me the complete picture. Today in medicine, we conduct procedures and prescribe medications, but too often our efforts are treating symptoms rather than getting to the root of the problem. In realizing this, I determined that something had to be done, and so I opened up the best textbook that I've ever owned, the Bible. Our Creator's original design for our health is well documented, and these concepts found in God's Word have significant implications for our lives today. It doesn't have to be hard. In fact, it's pretty simple. Jesus asks us to come unto Him, and He will give us rest. I invite you to join me in experiencing life more abundantly as together we learn to apply biblical prescriptions for life.
Well, thank you for having me here, and we'll get this mic up. Can everyone hear all right? Okay, great. Oh, that's a recording mic. Well, great. Okay. And welcome all those who are watching on the internet. Thank you for being here. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the experiences I had that's working in health ministry over quite a few years now. Some of the challenges and some of the mistakes I've made and some of the things we've learned as time's gone on. And I also want to introduce you to biblical prescriptions for life. This is a 7-week Bible study that we've already introduced to around the United States and world. They're doing this in India and Africa and different places. And it's a 7-week Bible study that brings people to a relationship with Christ one step at a time. It's pretty simplistic. It's not that complex. It's a daily study, and we have over 1,000 people doing it right now in January. They've started it at tomorrow morning over at Silverdale Baptist. They have a class of 50 doing this study. I did a kickoff seminar at Memphis Raleigh a few weeks ago, and they have people. But not only is it for people to do an in-reach to help our own people, but it's also an outreach. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But in about 2003 or 2004, I was a cardiologist. I'm a cardiologist at the Chattanooga Heart Institute. And through the years, I've developed a specialty within cardiology, reversing heart disease. That's become very practical now. So I just saw a person from New York City in the office this last week who, at age 43, had 80% blockages in his arteries. He did not want to have bypass surgery. He wasn't that symptomatic. So over the course of 2 years now, he's got those 80% down to 50%. And not everyone can do that. A lot of it depends on the genetics and the stress that's on the genes, right? Because when genetics are stressed, the telomeres shorten and you start having mutations, you start having symptoms, and then you have a place for modern medicine. So I've learned that there's a place for modern medicine, especially in treating symptoms. There's a place for lifestyle medicine in treating cause. But none of that really brings us to total healing. It's the path that we walk with Jesus that makes everything work. And in emphasizing that in the health ministry, that's where I see the greatest growth. When you're with Christ, when you're in a relationship with Him, worshiping Him, He gives us the power to make changes, to know where we can do the lifestyle changes, to know where modern medicine's approach it. But even if none of that works out because of our genes, in Him we have healing. We're promised eternal life. So we want to start from that position, that power position, walking with Christ every day, and then build on that one step at a time. Well, I started out in radio, and we do a radio program called HeartWise, and we're now on 400 different affiliates. We just finished up a contract with Moody Radio that's ending this month. Unfortunately, they've had a change in leadership, and with that change of leadership, I was one of the people that got bumped. So that's just life. Everything sort of runs its course. And we've had a television program now that's gone on for quite a few years. Different ones, and I added up how many we've done now, and through the different, we've done about 250, 260 television programs on different things. We did a live program for quite a few years. That was our most popular program, but the resources in a live is pretty hard. I still do one called The Ultimate Prescription, and we just got back filming in Three Angels in January for that program. That's pretty much rewarding, but I've noticed that through the years that gives people education, but it didn't seem to engage them. We needed to have relationships with people, not just give them information. So with that, God sort of wrote in my heart that, we need to get involved, and so we grew the internet ministry, and we started making content for other ministries. And that's what I want to share with you, some of the content we have at HeartWise that we can share with any ministry, and your ministry can become our ministry. We're all in this together. We all have the same goal. We want to spread the everlasting gospel. Our website's heartwiseministries.org, and on that site, anything there are hundreds and hundreds of radio programs with experts from all over the world, our blogs that we share with people, the articles, the old TV shows, the 1-minute television spots, all that is for yours. One church we have uses us as their Facebook page for health ministries. They put a 1-minute spot up, the blogs. If they have health questions, they can come to our website, and our 200 specialists or whoever answers their questions for free, and we start developing relationships. Well, we started developing relationships with lots of people, but still we wanted to do something more, add something more. And that was the spiritual component. So the next thing that the ministry developed is this 7-week Bible study. And this is not too dissimilar from every Bible study out there. Kay Arthur from Precept Ministries is a friend of mine, and she showed me how to design it and lay it out. She had some of her writers help us on that. It's our material, but they helped us put it in a format that everyone's used to. So we made 7 videos. They last about 20 minutes. They introduce each lesson each week. The group will hear the video, then they'll have a discussion, and then they'll go to this Bible study and do it every day. And it develops community. Some people do it over 7 weeks. Some people do it over 7 months. It varies depending on the needs. We have different denominations that's turned this into their own health ministry network. And it's theirs, okay? The Church of God has used this, and this is their health ministry format for their entire denomination. Now, they wrote a foreword in it saying we agree with this. This is biblical, but not theological. Remember, we're just trying to teach people how to have a relationship with Jesus and how the physical and the spiritual go together. So in this Bible study, we decided to pick the things that people have the most problems with, and also show them how the physical and their spiritual go together. So for instance, in the first week, all people understand is why they're sick. I'm surprised that when I talk to people in the office, how many people do not understand why they're sick. So we spend a whole week talking about genetics and stressors and things that we do to hurt our bodies, and all the stress that comes in from every input that we have, whether it be a food input or a mental input or a stress from the world input. All that stress turns on chemical reactions that change our bodies, that cause mutations and age us. So a lot of people don't understand. Some people think it's just about food or just about the brain or just about different types of genetic stress that we might have. But health is more complicated than that. So we spend a whole week talking about that. Then we went back and we looked at all the things that people have major problems with that causes these stress. The fact that 75% of people don't drink enough water every day, that made us have a whole week on water. But not only we talked about water, we talked about the living water. A lot of people don't move enough. You know, we weren't designed to sit, just like E.W. said. We were designed to move. Most people don't move. Most people don't stretch. Most people don't do resistance training. We spent a whole week, one step at a time, biblically, showing people how to move. But not only when they moved, we wanted them to think about their body. We wanted, when they moved, more importantly, think about walking with Christ. The physical and the spiritual. So that affects many people. We spent a whole week talking about sunshine and light. Did you know that 60 to 70% of people don't get enough light every day? God made us to be outside, to have that energy from the sun, not only for vitamin D mechanisms, but now we're understanding that the sun can penetrate our very deep organs, helping them to function more optimally. Our microbiome in the gut now depends on sunlight. Go figure. Making chemicals like ubiquinone and other antioxidants dependent on sunlight getting in us. But now we have a stress of being inside and not outside. We have a stress of sitting and not moving. So that was one that affected many. So we spent a whole week on that. Then we also spent another week on talking about nutrition. But we moved people one step at a time towards nutrition. We didn't give them too much. We talked about the big picture, like 95% of people don't get enough fiber every day. So we focused on fiber and other major topics in that. But not only we talked about nutrition, we gave them the good, better, best. Because we want them to be the best as God moves them that direction. But we also talked about the bread of life as well. And we showed them how the changes people make, even if you make a health change, if it's for the wrong reason, that's not good. It's got to be for the right reason. Even doing something good, if it's done out of selfishness, is a negative chemical reaction on the stress part of the brain you're going to hear about, the amygdala. We don't want to stress that. We want to upload the prefrontal cortex. So we talked a whole week about that. Because we have so many mental health problems, we spent a whole week talking about mental health issues and simple things in cognitive therapy and biblical principles that we could give people. For instance, be anxious about nothing, and what anxiety and fear and phobia does to our brain and our chemistry, and how that is a stress that ages us and causes premature disease. So we talked about that for a week. But the most important, I saved for the last, and when we designed this 7-week study, we didn't know which order to put them in, but we saved the physiology of worship for the last. Did you know that worship in and of itself improves our physiology and changes our very epigenetics, the act of worship? So there's only some small studies about worship out there. So we've been praying about that. So our ministry has created this year the first worship study. We're involved in worship as a study. We're going to prove how it changes the epigenetics. Well, I had the privilege of studying up at Harvard with Dusek and his team, and they did a study looking at epigenetics and the changes that happen with repetitive prayer, meditation, things like that. And they showed that 10 minutes of that over 60 days changed about 2,500 genes in the body that were involved in chronic disease, chronic aging. So if that can do it, I said, well, we should be able to develop a study showing that biblical worship and study what it does. So it took about 1 year to develop the 10-minute intervention, the pill, the treatment. And you can imagine people have, that took a lot. A lot of people said, well, if you have 10 minutes of worship, what should that look like? So it's taken some while to develop that. One of the things that we added in was worship warm-up. We warm up, we get everything ready to go to work. Well, what more important thing than we do every day than worship God? So we need to get our brain even prepared to worship God. So we give people techniques they can do to turn off stress chemistry and upshift our brains to the prefrontal cortex so we're really ready to worship. We do all this in 10 minutes. Then we go through the different things. And to come to God, of course, you have to have Christ intercede for us, right? In the old covenant, they had all these things they had to do before that they were able to worship. So we have to be right with Christ. So we have a prayer that sort of sets the tone to get us right with God. And then we have some other things that we do in 10 minutes of worship. So what we plan to do and take people that have never worshiped before, ever, pay them to worship, study their genes before the worship, and then study their genes 2 months later, just like they did. So we can say, listen, biblical worship is a treatment, a biblical prescription for life. Throughout this, I've gone back through the scriptures in each one of these and found scriptures that teach us health principles and shown the evidence-based science behind it and figured out practical ways that you can incorporate this into a life. So when churches have done this so far, and this has been out over a year now, they've noticed that first they usually do it in reach. I give a kickoff seminar and they do it themselves. But then they get excited about it and they go out in the community and talk to maybe friends and neighbors that they've never met before. And they knock on the door and say, would you like to lose weight? Would you like to come off of prescription medicine? Would you like to lower the risk of heart attack? Well, if you do that, just come to my house for 45 minutes of this Bible study and we'll do it together for 7 weeks and see what you think. And then, of course, we end in worship. And I said, you saw how worship coordinates everything, brings everything together. Here's the evidence behind worship. Why don't you come and worship with me at my church? Why don't you come and learn more? So we're now trying to develop resources and people that we work with that can develop this worship. We have the Bible, the 10-minute study. We have the Bible study. Now we're partnering with other people. EW just showed me a great Bible study that he's doing. We would like to bring people to have more. So this is a very practical program that people can use not only as an in-reach, but also an outreach. We've also developed resources on the website, biblicalprescriptionsforlife.com. And I'm going to leave some cards up here so everyone can, if they're interested in this program, you can look at it. But on that website is everything you need to know. We make it easy. It trains the leaders. You have videos and guides if you want to promote it in your community. That's all free to download. You have testimonies of people that have done it from around the world that you can use and you can have. And all of this is available as a program if you think it would work for you. It doesn't work for everybody, but some churches say this is something we want to do. It's pretty easy. The time commitment is usually about 45 minutes a week. But out of the people that have done it so far, when we get in the initial input, people have improved their blood pressure and lost weight and improved their mental stress levels and depression. But what the overwhelming theme that's come back so far is, we feel that God is giving us a special relationship with Him, and He's given us power to do things that we never did before. We don't want to do those old things. And we're making progress, and it's something, for some people, it's just drinking water every day or getting out of their chair every day. They say, but the greatest benefit of this program is it's really helped me feel the power of the Holy Spirit in a life. And it's given me a tool that's very easy to talk to my neighbor. I had one person write and said, I hadn't talked to my neighbor in 10 years. But they were struggling with weight. We invited them to this program. They did it for 7 weeks. They lost quite a few pounds. We developed a relationship. So now we're talking about spiritual things. So I think what differentiates us, I had lunch not too long ago with a gentleman that we're trying to get him interested in funding the genetic study, which the genetics of doing this is not inexpensive. So we need partners. And I was telling him about it, and he was saying, wow, this sounds really, really interesting. And he says, well, what differentiates you? I was recently out in California with Rick Warren. What differentiates this from the Daniel Plan? Okay? And I said, well, that is a very good question. Okay? And there's a couple differences. Difference number one is the person that put this together actually sees patients every day in the office. And I think that helps me understand what real people go through. The second thing is it's not that complicated. It's pretty doable. It's very doable things that people can do slowly. But the biggest difference is our focus. We're upfront saying that the real focus is not on nutrition, it's not on exercise, it's not on mental health, it's not on when to use modern medicine to bypass people to stents and pacemakers, even though there's place for that. These are all nice things, but they could be ditches if we don't walk out. The real focus is on that path, and that when we come into a relationship with Jesus, when we ask Him to be our Lord and Savior, that's what makes it all happen. And when you do that consistently, He's going to give you the power as health ministries to affect things to a great deal. That is the real difference. And we do that at the very up front. We're not ashamed. This is what we do. We want to introduce people to the ultimate physician. And we want to introduce them to biblical prescriptions to have in their life that will bring them to healing at some point. Sometimes, we look in the New Testament, depending on who you read, there's 23 to 25 healings. Some people God raised, some people raised from the dead and they died. All the healings eventually died, right? Some people Christ could have healed and he walked by them. Well, when you think about it, He was really interested in our hearts. He's interested in creating me a new heart, a new mind. And our mind is under such attack, but that's where the battle for health starts, in the mind. Who do we serve? And when we're following that prescription, this isn't anything new. This is right out of Ministry of Healing. This is just history repeated, except we have to rewrap things over time. And I've noticed in doing this for several years, people like evidence. They like evidence-based medicine. That's why the study. We know what the Bible says. Now we need proof. So as we can prove these things, Andrew Newberg at the University of Pennsylvania has now done worship studies that show when we worship, we grow the part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. And I saw his scans. They're real. People worshiping 10 minutes a day, their anterior cingulate cortex gets bigger. Their stress part of their brain, the amygdala, the stress chemistry of the brain that we share with animals gets smaller. It's amazing what worship does to our physiology. But it also lets people know one of the most important treatments we have is that's the treatment of hope. In the office, everyone needs hope. They need hope for today, to get them through the day. And there's going to be ups and downs for all of us. And only Christ is going to give us that. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have pain. But the joy about this study is when we have pain, we know where to go to soothe the pain. A lot of people don't know where to go. When I see someone that's addicted to drugs, alcohol, smoking, that isn't the problem. The problem is where's the pain coming from? What are they trying to soothe? And trying to retrain their brain so they can get healthy ways to deal with pain. When we tell people when they start walking with Christ, that's the hope for today, to get you through the day. But even if you have a terminal illness or terminal disease or bad genes that no one can do anything with, remember, we all have bad genes. You'd show me anyone in this room that has good genes. No, we're all bad. We're all bad. We all need a Savior, period. Without that, we have nothing. We can do everything in health, but without a Savior, we have nothing. Without a Savior leading our programs in health, we have nothing. And we also need to understand the balance, how this balance all comes together. But when we're talking about hope, not only hope for today, but if you have a genetic disease that cannot be cured, well, look at Christ. He knows. He wants your heart. And as long as we have your heart, you're going to have healing. It's just where, when, and how, and our God only knows that. The more I've been in health ministry, the more complicated I've noticed it gets as far as all the theories and what we've learned. I grew up eating eggs and cheese. Now we know that that's not the best thing. I used to eat a lot of processed foods. Now we know that's not the best thing. But you know what? All along, Even though we've had these ditches that we fall into from time to time. And in medicine, mercy, I can't tell you how many medicines were the best ever, and now they're gone. You know, in the 30s, they said smoking was a treatment for asthma. You know, dentists used to use cocaine to numb the mouth up, and that was modern medicine. If you were taking care of George Washington and didn't withdraw his blood when he was dying from an infection, you weren't part of the club. So it behooves us to think, well, maybe if we think a little bit outside of the box, maybe might be in a good place. Might be in a good place. So this program, I'm not going to answer questions for people because I know that there's an audience out there. But this program, the way you can get information is, I leave in my cards, there's a website, biblicalprescriptionsforlife.com. There's some programs you can have to look at. This might be something that your ministry could use, and we could easily support any health ministry anywhere via the internet. It's amazing what internet and Facebook can do. I have one church that we support on Facebook. They have 50,000 people on Facebook. I give them a blog every month. I give them a 1-minute health nugget every month. And it's just like we're part of their ministry. And, you know, they don't have any resources to really have doctors answer questions. So they come to our website and we answer their people that go to their website questions. And we invite them to go and worship with them. So that's all that we've been doing in HeartWise. My time is up here. I want to thank you, but not only I want to emphasize what I've learned about the relationship and hope for today, but there's also hope forever. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time on this day, for being here. That's quite a commitment. So I know that your heart's in the right place, and I just want to pray and wish you all the best of luck.
Well, thank you, sir. And I will mention, I don't have my thing on here. We do have him scheduled for 2019 at camp meeting for our 5 programs there. So you don't want to wait that long, I know. But if you have questions, have trouble reaching him, you can call me and I'll try to answer those questions. Okay. All right. For those that came in a little bit later, we're trying to stay on schedule here with a number of speakers. We will talk a little bit later of how this comes together. I mean, you're going to hear a lot about health, but we recognize that's the right arm of the message. I mentioned a few minutes ago the Helping Daily Living coming out of Ministry of Healing. But we're also going to talk about personal ministries, the spiritual angle of outreach. So don't feel like we're leaving that out. Our next speaker is going to be Tawan Usry. Tawan is a teacher at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. He's a chaplain. And he is in the area of mental health, an area that we have not done anything on basically in our whole denomination. I serve on the North American Division Committee. We brought it up a year or two ago and we talk about it, but we're going to do more than talk in this conference. And so in just a moment, I'm going to turn it right over to Tawan. He's going to have 30 minutes and he's going to tell you how he can come to your church. So just follow along as we go. Tawan, if you're ready, come right on up. I don't know if it takes a minute or two to switch over, okay?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tawan Usry, and I want to talk with you a little bit about mental health ministries and what can the church do in regards to developing a mental health program for your church, for your community. I have a couple of slides I want to show you in regards to that. All right, so the first one, that there is a great deal of stigma in the church associated with mental illness, and persons with mental illness, unfortunately, are often looked down on, mistreated, and marginalized. People with this particular type of challenge, mental illness, like any other people of faith, look to the church for compassion. They look to the church for affirmation and understanding. But 40% of people with mental illness seek out pastors and clergy before they seek out mental health professionals. All right, so a couple of things right here. I want to show you a video in regards to what we just talked about.
Secular society is finally talking about mental illness. Unfortunately, people are reluctant to speak out about mental illness in our faith communities because of the stigma and shame too often associated with these illnesses. Many religious groups still make the assumption that mental illness is a moral or a spiritual failure instead of a treatable illness. There is a way to enable our congregations to have a better understanding of mental illness. and to foster ministry to and with persons with mental illness and their families. The first step is education. Education must begin with a commitment by the clergy and church leaders. When mental illness is addressed in the worship setting through sermons, prayers, and liturgy, it becomes a topic that can be more openly discussed in the church. To continue to minister to and with persons with a mental illness and their families, a church congregation must make a covenant to do this ministry. This outreach is evangelism to those who have felt forgotten by their faith community in a time of great need. Just as Jesus intentionally sought out the man named Legion, the church must learn to seek out the mentally ill and their families. Jesus returned this man to full membership and participation in the community, which should be the goal of any congregation's outreach ministry. Once persons feel welcome, the community needs to be prepared to provide support. Stephen Ministers or other one-to-one support programs can help persons practice the ministry of presence to those who are hurting.
I believe that one of the most enriching and enhancing things a congregation can do is to train people in a ministry like this, and for a lay person to say, I'm here, I care about you, I'm here to bring you God's love, and to listen.
When a person with a mental illness is able to use their faith and spirituality as a source of healing and support, they discover a renewed sense of vision, hope, and possibilities for the future.
All right, so this video that I showed will open up a lot of information and awareness in regarding what we can do about mental health in our church and what can the church do about mental health in the community. Mental illness refers to a wide range of conditions. So anxiety disorders, mood disorders, psychotic disorders, personality disorders, impulse or addictive disorders is a part of that. And also one very familiar one that we all have heard a lot about is PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, people with anxiety disorders respond to certain objects or situations with fear and with dread, with a lot of worrying, as well as with physical signs of anxiety or panic, such as your rapid heartbeat, your sweating. And anxiety disorder is diagnosed if the person's response is not appropriate for the particular situation, if that person cannot control the response, or if the anxiety interferes with their normal functioning. Anxiety disorders do include generalized anxiety, panic disorder, social anxiety, and also specific phobias, which cause them a lot of worry and a lot of dread. Now, in regards to mood disorders, these are called affective disorders. Affective meaning with the emotions. It involves persistent feelings of sadness or periods of feeling overly happy or fluctuations from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. One common disorder associated with that is bipolar disorder. Now, psychosis or psychotic disorders involve disordered awareness and thinking. The most common symptoms of psychotic disorders are hallucinations, which is the experience of images or sounds that aren't real, such as hearing voices or seeing things, and also delusions, which are false fixed beliefs that the person accepts as true despite evidence of the contrary. Now, schizophrenia will be a good example of this particular psychotic disorder. The next one, impulse control. People with impulse control disorders are unable to resist urges or impulses to perform acts that could be harmful to themselves. Pyromania, kleptomania, compulsive gambling are examples of what this is talking about. In addition to that, alcohol and drugs are common objects of addictions, and people with those particular type of challenges become so involved or so preoccupied with those objects of their addictions that they begin to ignore relationships and they begin to ignore responsibilities. Now, personality disorders. Now, people that have this particular type of struggle have extreme and inflexible personality traits that are distressing to the person and or causes problems in work, school, or relationships. Now, when we're talking about mental health disorders or mental health challenges, it's very key to understand that anytime that these particular type of challenges starts disrupting your work, your school, or social relationships is when you're getting into the realm of that. But of course, that needs to be diagnosed by a medical doctor or a medical provider. But in addition to those patterns of thinking and behavior, significantly, they differ from expectations to society and are so rigid that they interfere with the normal functioning. Some examples: antisocial personality disorder, which is disregard for violations of the rights of others. We often sometimes see this in children who are experiencing conduct disorder when they have a tendency or a pattern of violating the rights of others, even when they are a child. The next one is obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a concern with orderliness, perfectionism, excessive attention to details, mental and interpersonal control, and a need for control over one's environment. And last is paranoid personality disorder, which is a pattern of paranoia or pervasive, long-standing suspiciousness and generalized mistrust of others. Now, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition that can develop following a traumatic event or experience, or even a terrifying event, such as sexual or physical assault, the unexpected death of a loved one, or a natural disaster. Now, people with PTSD often have lasting and frightening thoughts and memories of the event and tend to be what is called emotionally numb. Now, what's the impact? 6 out of 10 leading diseases worldwide have to do with emotional problems or mental health issues. 1 in 5 adults in the U.S., which is 43.8 million people, suffer from mental health challenges. 26% of the homeless population have mental illness, and 20.9 million people have a mood disorder. Now, women in the U.S. are twice as likely to experience various types of depression than men, and men in the U.S. are twice as likely to experience various types of depression than other men worldwide. And what about the children? 1 in 8 children have anxiety disorders, 1 in 33 children have clinical depression, and some 5-year-olds with behavioral problems are being placed on antipsychotic medications. And our youth, cutting or non-suicidal self-injury is increasing in teenagers. We see a lot of this in high schools. 2 to 3 million Americans self-abuse themselves. Girls cut, burn, boys hit, bite, and punch. And they do it to decrease the pain, the stress that they have, the feelings of shame, and also other forms of distress. Now, suicide, the third largest leading cause of death of youth ages 15 to 24, and suicide is also the 11th leading cause of death in the United States. Now, what is your belief about people with mental illness? We often ask this question. True or false? Every mentally ill person who prays more, every person who has this particular difficulty, who prays more, will be 100% cured of their mental illness. True or false? Persons with mental illness could just snap out of it because you know what? They're just lazy. True or false? Persons with mental illness are better off going elsewhere to worship. They shouldn't come here. They have difficult behaviors that disrupt worship. True or false? True or false? All right. So what can we do? How the faith community deals with persons with mental illness and their families depend on the way they view and perceive the brokenness and the pain of their life. When we are uncomfortable with our humanness, our own faults, our own brokenness, it's easy to feel discomfort. Being around other people who reveal some of the same human brokenness, human weakness or brokenness will be a result of that. So how can we support members with mental illness in our church? So let's start learning how to create these caring organizations. Establishing a mental health ministry team or committee to work with your health ministry leaders, EW. Church members often visit families and friends with physical issues or physical illnesses, taking meals and providing other helpful services. And this is what your mental health ministry team or mental health ministry committee can do. Have you ever thought about visiting someone who has depression? Visiting someone who has anxiety, or visiting someone who's having difficulty with bipolar disorder? We often visit people who are sick and shut in, but what about also visiting them if they're suffering from a mental health type illness? Other things we can do: mental health, mental illness awareness month, May or September. For some churches, divine worship service, putting a bulletin, information in your bulletin or hands out during church service. What about midweek prayer service or prayer meeting? We can talk about mental health difficulties or mental health issues in that. Sabbath afternoon seminars, what we're trying to do right now, and also learning how to do mental health professional support groups if you have a person who is a mental health professional in your church is another thing that churches can do. Conducting community health fairs that include information on mental illness and collaborating with other local Seventh-day Adventist churches and also health ministry leaders in doing some type of community health fair. Providing training for greeters, hostess, deacons in welcoming and supporting families who face mental illness. Really pretty much allowing them to be able to look out for any type of signs and distress, the symptoms, teaching them how to look for that. And when they see those particular things happening in members or guests, learning how to deal with that in a Christ-like way. Mental health ministry teams can become companions. They can accompany people in worship to a quiet place, a quiet room in the church. It could be a Sabbath school room or just a place set aside for people who are having some particular crisis or distress. Now, people with mental illness are neighbors. They're members in our congregations, members of our families. If we ignore their cries for help, their problems will not go away. Because it will not go away, and because of our spiritual commitments, because we follow Jesus, we are compelled to help. With the Lord's help, we can make our congregations places where people with mental illness and their families are truly included in ministry. Ministering to them when they have needs, ministering to them in deeds of loving kindness, and searching for ways to include them also in ministry. Samuel 22, verses 1 through 2, gives us a biblical answer, an example on how we can do this. The Bible says, David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. Now here's the thing here. And everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And they were with him about 400 men. So I want to leave you with this, just a couple of lessons in regards to this story found in 1 Samuel 22. There were 400 who were oppressed, who were poor, who were afflicted, and who were in debt. Are there people in your community who are oppressed? Are there people in your community who are poor, afflicted, and in debt? Yes or no? Of course. The next thing is that they gathered themselves unto him. God sent them to David. They went out to David. They went to see David, and David did not turn them away. Number two. Number three, he became a captain over them. He ministered to them. Now, we know that David at this time had problems of his own. He was being chased all around the kingdom by Saul. He had problems that he was dealing with, yet he had enough time to have a support group with them. And the last one is the 400. What would you do if God sent 400 discontented people to your church? What would you do? 400 people. How would you handle that? How would you minister to them? This is how you would minister to them. Matthew 25, verse 34 through 40. The Bible says, then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me. I was thirsty, and you gave me. I was a stranger, and ye took me. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed thee, or thirsty and give thee drink? When did we see you a stranger and took ye in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say to them, verily, verily, I say unto you, inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, my brother, ye have done it unto me. That's how we need to do with people who have these particular type of issues and difficulties, whether in our church or in our community. We are compelled to help. We should help. Will you please help them? Thank you. All right, so just a couple of things. We won't take any questions because I know we're pressed for time. But I want to just draw your attention to the handouts in regards to the mental health seminars that we're going to be doing for the churches. There's a flyer in your handout. Did you? Yep, pull that. Thank you. So we're going to go around and if churches are interested in learning how to conduct a mental health program in your church, this is something that we are willing and we're able and we're available to do. And this is the information. My name, Tawan Ushry. This is how you contact me, or you can contact EW and he can put you forward to me. But a couple of things we're going to be doing, teaching people how to do mental health training teams, learning more about suicide, anxiety, and depression, learning how to do more in regards to resources and referrals, looking for signs and symptoms, and also, how do we conduct a mental health Sabbath? What is that about? So we're going to be talking a lot about that and going around churches and helping put forth those events on.
How many have enjoyed the first two people so far? I hope it's been helpful. We're looking at a variety of angles. You know, in health ministries, you can go a lot of directions. A few years ago, Dr. Handysides, the head of General Conference Health Ministries at the time, once gave me a book that had 90 one-hour lectures on health. And it convinced me we can't go 90 directions. You're better off going one direction and doing it right. So any of these suggestions are something that you can look at, and it may not be this year, but it might be the next. The next program we've heard about. We've had them before, and you've heard a lot, but folks, it's really growing, and that's the Grundy Reversing Diabetes Program. We're glad to have Steve and Karen here, and that's all I'm going to say because usually I say the wrong thing, so we're glad that they're here.
It is so good to be with you again. I'm the Steve portion, and this is the Karen portion. What if you had the skills, the knowledge to be able to share with people what they needed to do to get rid of diabetes? That's the fastest growing disease in all of human history. What if the Adventist Church could become known as the go-to place for good lifestyle information? What if we became known as the church that provided you the latest scientific information? You could get the truth about what's out there. You know, you can get on the internet and you can look and read all kinds of stuff, but is it true? But what if you could come to us for the truth? And what if not only that, but you could come to us for the truth about other things as well? About biblical truth, about prophecies, etc. You know, let this be the opening wedge that gets us there. We foresee that the diabetes program that we have been teaching is a tremendous evangelistic tool to get us out there and to help us get into a community. For instance, if you advertise a Bible study or a Revelation seminar or Daniel seminar, who comes to the Daniel seminar or the Revelation seminar? It's church people. It's people that are already interested in studying Daniel or Revelation. Who comes to a diabetes seminar? People with diabetes. And who would that be? That's anybody. Anybody. And so this really opens up doors. And we have had just wonderful experiences with people over and over again. And so I just want to tell you that we have a lot of information, and it's fairly easy to put these programs on. We can do it as a video. We can give you PowerPoint slides with a transcript. You can do it that way. You know, it's just a variety of approaches, and you don't have to be super expert to do it. Now, the conference does ask that if you're representing the church, you have one licensed medical person present that can help answer some questions, and usually those questions aren't too difficult. People often get scared away. What if they ask something that I don't know the answer to? Well, first of all, most Adventists have a broad knowledge base about health. You know a lot of answers to health that the public out there doesn't know, which puts you in the expert's seat to begin with. And then secondly, if you don't know something, I'm a phone call away. You call me, and if I don't know, I can get the answer, but I probably know if it's related to diabetes.
One lady came to the very first training session that we had. The conference helped sponsor it down at the conference office, and she attended and was so excited about what she learned that she went back and she got a set of the videos, and she, in her home, called together 8 of her friends that had diabetes. And they got together and she put the video on, and then they would talk about it. And at the end of the 6 weeks of doing this, they had such good results that they did one for their community then. And they've held several since then.
You know, the diabetes reversal concept is really a new science. It sort of broke open in 2011. So we're only looking at a 7-year history on this thing. But what causes diabetes in the first place is fat in the liver and in the pancreas. And in fact, the experts tell us that you can reverse diabetes by losing as little as 1 gram of fat from the pancreas. But once it's stored there, it's a little hard to do. It requires a major weight loss. And people with diabetes don't lose weight easily because their hormones have become out of balance. So we try to teach them a variety of ways to come about and help them do that. And we've had people that have, both men and women, that have lost in excess of 100 pounds on this program. Now, not everybody has room to lose 100 pounds. Some, only need to lose 30. There was an interesting study that was just completed in England and reported December 5, 2017, just a month or so ago. And in this study, they took 300 people. One group of people, they fed them a regular diabetic diet. The other 150 people, they said, we're feeding you an 850 calorie a day diet. We don't recommend that. But that's what they did in the study. Held them on the people for 8 weeks. The goal was to lose a significant amount of weight. And what they found out was that the more weight the people lost, the greater their chance of reversing the diabetes became. In fact, anybody that lost 33 pounds or more, 80% of the people, 86% of the people in that category reversed their type 2 diabetes. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal, because we've been telling people from a medical standpoint that this is an irreversible disease, but 86% reversed.
So this program is not the typical ADA program. We don't particularly care that people control their blood sugar. We want to address the issue that's underlying, that's causing their blood sugar to be elevated. If you take care of that problem, the blood sugar will come down. So this is not the typical. We don't talk to them about controlling. We teach them how to reverse. So that's a big difference in what we're doing.
You don't always see the results of what you're doing the week that you've done them, or during your 6-week program. You may notice the beginnings of change, but the actual change come later. 2 weeks ago, I received a phone call from well, it was actually an email. I received an email, and this couple was saying they would be willing to give a testimonial about our program. So I called them up and talked with them on the phone. Then we met at a restaurant on, I guess, one day this week, and they gave their testimonial. And it was just thrilling to hear. The man had come to a program last April, started the beginning of April, and he was experiencing blood sugars every day, was running in about the 145 to 155 range was where his blood sugars were running.
And it should be less than 100.
He was overweight, had a nice, he calls it TV tray. He had a large TV tray out in front of him. And he was sick, and his health was deteriorating very rapidly. His wife came along because she's the one in the family that cooks, and she wanted to be sure that he stayed around so they could enjoy their retirement time together. So over the course of the past 9 months, he's lost 25 pounds. Diabetes has come under control. Blood sugars are usually in the 80s to 90s. And he's off all medications. And so his doctor's taking him off all that. His wife, on the other hand, she thought she was doing just fine. I mean, she's had issues all her life. One of them happens to be severe constipation. Ever since she was a little girl, she just thought that was normal living. And she didn't start doing the program for any benefit for herself. She was just doing it for her husband. And, but she has lost 12 pounds, just finished buying a new wardrobe. But she says the amazing thing is, constipation problem is gone. Instead of going 3 times a month, she now goes every day. Yes, she says it was a terrible, painful experience, you know, and it would happen 3 times a month. Okay.
Okay, so what's happening in the churches? One of the churches down in South Georgia, they have a very small fellowship hall out behind the church. And so they had some folks that came for training and they wanted to hold a seminar. So they rented a room downtown that would hold 27 participants. They advertised, they had 27 people signed up, and they held a seminar. The day before the seminar was supposed to start, a gentleman was at his physician's and they discovered his blood sugar was over 400. And so the doctor said, I want to put you on insulin, get you started. And he said, well, I want to go to this seminar. Would you give me a chance first? The doctor said, okay, you've got 30 days. So he attended the seminar. By the end of the seminar, his blood sugar was down to 128. He was feeling great. And the church was so excited. One day, one of the church leaders was in the little fellowship hall out behind the church when there was a knock on the door. And she went to the door and a gentleman was there. He said, I'd like to see your pastor. I said, well, he's not here. How may I help you? And he said, my doctor sent me over here and said, you can help me with my diabetes. They are so excited. So they scheduled another seminar. They had their 27 people. They had a waiting list of 27. They had 5 people from the first seminar that wanted to come back, attend again. And she said, I'm sorry, you cannot do that unless you're willing to work. I'll put you to work and you can attend. So they had 5 community people helping to put on the seminar. It was so exciting. The gentleman that had lost the elevated blood sugar, he says he's their poster child. He tells everybody about what's happening. The church board, now this is Dublin, Georgia, the church board voted that they would hold 4 reversing diabetes seminars this year. That's once a week for 6 weeks. They're holding 2 in their community and 2 up in Vidalia, which is where their little church plant is. So I asked the leader, I said, well, what's your membership? Well, they have 11 to 12 people that attend church regularly. So to hold a seminar, their whole church is involved. It is really exciting. And part of the program, we have a couple lectures for each night. There's a little exercise segment, but then there's also what we call table coaching. We'll meet together with a group, like we'll tell these folks, turn your chair around and get with that group, and we'll have a table host, and that person helps just to moderate the conversation they have. There's questions that's already specified for them, and it's simple things like, what did you learn new tonight? And so you go to each person around your table and they share what they learned new. Well, not only are you reflecting on what you've just learned, but then how can you apply that? And so you get them to share, how can you apply what you've learned tonight in your home this week? And so they go around and share. And as that happens, often we see people's eyes light up because it starts as they're vocalizing what they've learned and as they're hearing what the other people are saying. The light comes on. It's like, I could do that in my home. And so then they set goals themselves. And when they come back the next week, one of the first things Steve does is ask them, how'd you do with your goals? How many met their water goal? How many met their fiber goal? How many met your weight loss goal? And it is so exciting as the people share the successes that they've had. So it's really changed the attitude what the Dublin church goal is. They said they want to be the go-to, that when people have issues, they know that they can come to the folks at the Dublin Seventh-day Adventist Church and that they can get help with their health and then grow it into the spiritual help that they can give as well.
You know, one of the things that this program has done for our community, we've been teaching it for 5 years, and one of the things that it has done, it has changed the image of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the community, big time. Now, whenever they talk about the Adventist Church, it's talking about the Adventist Church with the highest regard, instead of them being the cult or them people, or anyway. But it impacts things more than diabetes. The ripple effect is big. It's going. We were just in a restaurant this week. If you're driving through Mont Eagle, you go over the mountain between here and Nashville, between Chattanooga and Nashville. Mont Eagle's on the top. If you take the second exit, there is the Smokehouse Restaurant. And the Smokehouse Restaurant made its name by serving lard on tap. I mean, lard was in every vegetable. You couldn't find anything to eat unless you were willing to drink a cup of lard with it. No, I'm exaggerating. Anyway, one of the things they've done is they have just, several months ago, a couple of years ago actually, they changed their salad bar. After the lady came to our Reversing Diabetes seminar and she started learning about nutrition, and she took it seriously that as a community leader, as a business owner, she had a responsibility to help improve the health of the community. So she started what she called Vegan Thursdays at the Smokehouse. Hello? I mean, that just didn't make any sense. I don't like the word vegan because Oreos are vegan. You can eat vegan and you cannot eat healthful foods. But, plant-based whole foods, I think that sounds much better. So I like that. I wish she called it something else, but that's what she called it. But the amazing thing was the community loved it. There were people that got on board. They wouldn't miss coming on Thursdays. In fact, one Thursday it started snowing at 10 o'clock in the morning, just as they were loading the bar. And they said, oh, great, here we go. We're going to be sitting here all day long trying to keep this food on the bar hot. And they worked all day long trying to keep the food on the bar because the community wasn't going to miss out on the day. Well, they've decided now it's just too hard to do vegan one day a week and do the other stuff any other day of the week. Now, everything that you put on that bar is pretty much plant-based, except for 2 meats at the end. It's incredible. You can walk in there and find anything healthful to eat. And they've just redone their salad bar. You can go to Grundy County Health Council on Facebook. Just when you go to Facebook, search Grundy County Health Council. And there's a video that we posted this last week where we pan through and show you their salad bar. It's awesome. Every color of the rainbow. It's just like what we teach in class. Every day you need to eat every color of the rainbow. It's all there. It's just gorgeous. They've done a fantastic job with it. And the community loves it. Everybody's talking about it right now. So anyway.
One of the ladies that we had that came that helped with a seminar that we held there at the Smokehouse, when she came to the orientation, she was recently retired as a nurse, and she said, I'm willing to help, but I'm not a diabetic, and I don't need the information. And Steve said, well, that's fine, but we'd be happy to have your help. Would you do blood pressures for us? Well, she listened to the orientation program, and she said, well, actually, I've had no feeling in either of my legs from above my knees down for more than 25 years. She said, do you think that this might help me? And Steve said, well, you're not supposed to get over neuropathy problems. The nerves aren't supposed to regrow. That's what we were always taught. But he said, we've had some really amazing success with people that have neuropathy pain. So come and listen and put into practice, and let's see what happens. Well, the third night, she came up to Steve and she said, Steve, I have developed a terrible pain in the bottom of my foot.
And I'm going, yes! And she's looking at me like, what? You're happy that I'm hurting? And I said, that is fantastic news, because if your nerves weren't beginning to heal, you wouldn't be feeling any pain. And she goes, oh, Yeah.
So when we arrived for the 6th night, she was waiting outside for us an hour before the program started. And she got up and she came right over to the car and she said, I just have to tell you, when I woke up this morning, I could feel my toes for the first time in more than 25 years. She said, I have been wiggling my toes all day long because it feels so good. Well, we saw her just recently, and she was at the community center, and she was volunteering. She was helping, was back there sorting stuff that had been donated, and Steve said, Connie, how are you doing? And she gave us a testimonial, so she doesn't mind us using her name. Connie, how are you doing?
She says, oh, I'm doing great, just great. There was a little pause. She says, my feet are completely normal. My feet are completely normal. In fact, she said, for 25 to 30 years, every time I put my foot down, I had to look to where I was putting my foot to make sure that what I was stepping on, because I couldn't feel anything. She says, now my gait is returning to normal because I can feel. You know, we're told at the end of time that people would have miraculous healings, but it would happen in response to when people brought themselves into alignment, brought their behaviors into alignment with the principles of health that God has taught us. I think that's what we just saw. I think that's what we just saw. And there are so many testimonials from other people that have learned and their lives have been changed. I just wish more of them would talk to me. You know?
Tell another real quick story of what happened up in Crossville. They have held the program now for 3 years. The first year they had 40 to 50 people. They have a physician that does it, and they call it Optimal Health. So they have their program. The next year they had a few more participants. And then this year they were getting ready to do a program. And one morning the health leader woke up and she felt impressed. You need to get up and go to the Homeowners Association board meeting. And she said, Lord, I've lived in this community 17 years and I've never been to a board meeting and I don't know why I need to go now. And the Lord said, get up and go. So she got up and she got dressed and she went, and she was sitting there and she's going, Lord, I don't know why I'm here, but you know you're going to have to prompt me and tell me. And so she's listening as they go through the agenda. Well, then the chairman starts talking about, I need you all to eat at the country club. We've refurbished it. It's great and all this, but you all need to take advantage, and we need you to eat over there to patronize the country club. Restaurant. So she took that as her cue. She got up, she walked up to the front of the meeting, and she said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address that issue. And he said, okay. She said, you know, we're a retirement community and we care about our health, and the food at the country club is not healthy. She went on to tell about the diabetes program and how much they've learned and how we need to be eating good, nutritious food. And he said, I'd really like to talk to you after the meeting's over. So they talked after the program. He said, look, if you can find 100 people that are interested in eating better, we will consider changing the menu. So she went home, she got down on her knees, she said, Lord, I need 100 people. And they started advertising for the seminar. She called me 2 weeks before the seminar was to start. She said, Karen, we have 103 people that have already registered and paid $40 a person to attend the seminar. They completed the seminar. They had 80 people that completed the 6-week seminar. And the country club, the very first thing they added to their menu was a veggie burger. So they're making progress. They're so excited for the change. And furthermore, the country club was so excited with what was happening and all the interest that they ended up allowing them to use their premier restaurant at no charge to hold their seminar. So God has blessed in mighty ways, and they're getting ready to start another seminar, and the hospital is helping to sponsor this one. So we praise the Lord for the program. If you're interested in doing it, we have a training that's going to be held in Atlanta, the North Atlanta Church, on March 18th, and then there will be another training that is done There's in Harriman, yeah, the Roan community. Right, the 25th of March.
Don't go anywhere. Yeah, that's Roan Community Church. Tell them just briefly what that training involves.
Well, it's an all-day seminar. It's going to be a time where we just go over the seminar content very rapidly, and then we'll spend an hour and a half to 2 hours talking about how to organize the room, how we do PR, how we get the people in, how the thing progresses. So there's a lot to know. You won't know everything that you will want to know by the end of the day, but you will have a lot of resources where you can study and learn. And one of the amazing things is diabetes isn't going away. And these principles are good, sound health principles. And if you follow them, your health improves. That's the worst case scenario. We've been doing it 5 years. I still have to hear about the first adverse reaction anybody has had from following these. We do not treat, we do not give medical advice. We provide education. And that's very important for the people and all the staff to understand. We provide education. It's lifestyle education. They are to go to their doctors and get their doctor's permission before they do anything that we have talked about, that we recommend in the program. But it is life-changing.
For the training, pre-registration is required, and there's a number on the flyer there that you need to contact. There's a small charge that's associated with it, but it's not a whole lot. And then at the training, we will have the materials available for purchase that you would need.
Yep. Thank you. Is this what I'm speaking on? This little thing? Okay. Don't miss this point, folks. If you do not have this program going, anybody trained in your church, how can we not? I mean, when we're looking for something that's successful as far as meeting people, we know this works. So go back and talk to your church, whatever it takes to pre-register. Also, we're getting ready. They're actually going to do the program in Ringgold starting Saturday night. February 10 is the introduction program. And then the actual program starts on Monday night, February 12th, 1 night a week for 6 weeks. If you want to see what it's like and get a feel for it, just come there. We're doing a lot of advertising, and it's going to be at Patriot Hall right there in Ringo. So if you got any questions, you can call me. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take another 5-minute break. We next are going to, well, one of the things we're getting ready to do is have a training program in this conference of how to do cooking schools. We have a lot of great programs going on. So in about 5 minutes, Julie Thomas from the Ringo Church, who's having tremendous success, is going to talk to you a little bit about that, and she's right here where you can visit and see what it's like. Let's get up and move around again for about 5 minutes, okay? Okay, we're ready to begin again, and as I said a moment ago, I'm glad to introduce Julie Thomas from the Ringo Church. And I thought, you know, we're here and you're close by, and it will give you a golden opportunity to see how things have grown down there and what a good job they're doing. And so, Julie, just tell them what you want to tell them.
Is this just on? Okay, all right. Hi, happy Sabbath. Good to be here with you today. A little awkward. I'm used to doing things in my own church, so I'm not used to coming out, but I appreciate the invite from EW to do this. A little bit about me. I've grown up as an Adventist. I've been a vegetarian all my life. So been a vegan for part of that time. Actually, pretty accomplished vegan cook, I would say, for a period of time. I've done weddings and I've done all kinds of things with that food as well. But I never felt really good, never felt really strong, never felt really healthy being vegan. And so I kind of exited that picture and went back to just being a vegetarian. And in 2015, I have 2 children. I have a 20-year-old born in 97, and then one who's 14. And so after about 97, after that first pregnancy, I've really developed just a lot of lethargy, a lot of just really blah. But I'm a very active, high intensity perfectionist, overachiever, and I'm sure no one in this room relates to that because you're not here on a personal ministries committee either, are you? Or health ministries or whatever. But so I'm very driven to do things, and sometimes overly much, out of balance, so to speak. And but I had all these issues developing, underlying, and I gained weight, couldn't lose it. I had a lot of struggles. I did find one program called MediFast I was able to lose on, and felt really good losing weight, doing those things. But then it all started coming back. I had a second child, and just different things, just the common things that are going on. And in 2015, actually 2014, I had some problems, some health problems coming up. And I had a goiter come up, and I thought, well, that's a little weird. It went away, so it must be fluid-filled cyst kind of thing. And then I had another one come up around December, late December of that year, and it wasn't going away. And it was very noticeable. And I thought, well, what's going on with this, okay? So I had, by this point, had a lot of hormone trouble, thyroid problems had been diagnosed, hypothyroidism, and I'm not a person that goes to the doctor too much. So I come from a pretty healthy stock, so to speak, and you know, you're really sick if you're going to the doctor. So I finally decided I better go to the doctor. Let me check this thing out, right? So I go and have a biopsy. I get sent for a biopsy. You know, this process takes a few days to go through. And, it's probably just fluid-filled cyst and this kind of thing. So it comes back, and I have the structure of cancer in my thyroid. So when you hear the word of cancer, I didn't have a diagnosis yet, but I'm pretty young, and only 45 at this right where I'm at now. So this is younger, and so I'm thinking, a little concerning. I'm a vegetarian all my life. I've all these things, all this stuff going on. But sustained stress, we know, is very damaging, right? So some of it's probably rather self-inflicted, or ultimately. So I go in, and the doctor recommends we have surgery. And my left side needs to come out of my thyroid. While I'm under, if they find cancer, then I need to probably go ahead and have all of it taken out, and he'll just remove it all while I'm under. So I won't know this, right? I'll wake up with half, or I'll wake up with none. So, so a little concerning, because I've never had anything going on in my life, anything major health, no one in my family's had cancer until about, I guess my mother was 75. She'd had a small amount of breast cancer we dealt with, but that's the only person, right? It's the only thing that's happened. And a little scary, to say the least. So I go in, have surgery. I indeed have one strip of cancer cells. So I wake up with no thyroid. But what I had been diagnosed with, in case you may not know about thyroid, is Hashimoto's. And Hashimoto's is an autoimmune version of hypothyroidism. It is a step past, a step worse, quite a bit worse, to be honest about it, than just hypothyroidism. So I was given a pamphlet by my doctor. It was a pamphlet. Hands this. You should read up on this. That's about the way you treat it, right? So you kind of have to learn to live with it. Okay. First off, we do as Adventists have a large amount, and we should never take it for granted. Just always be thankful and blessed, feeling that you know and have been exposed to health like we have been. Because I have worked with people so young, they don't understand anything. They're just like, really? You need to worry about eating vegetables? Why? I just am craving red meat because I'm feeling so sluggish. I feel like my iron's low. All these things you're hearing, and they just don't understand. It's just so sad. So don't ever, always feel blessed that we have the message we've been given. But anyway, so the Hashimoto's, there's a whole lot of research on it. There's a lot of pain. There's fibromyalgia. You've heard of that most likely by now. A lot of people you hear or have talked to, or maybe a lot of your friends, maybe you, have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. A lot of pain, a lot of combinations of things that go on with that. And Hashimoto's typically can be very similar to that, okay? So very difficult to lose weight, a lot of joint pain, a lot of depression, anxiety, all those things kind of mix in there. So when you're handed a pamphlet and you're sitting there, overachiever, and you're thinking, really? I don't know that I believe that there's nothing you can do for this. So, but it just kind of makes you a little frustrated, a little angry at the medicine world, a little frustrated that you've even gotten to this point anyway. How did I get here? And I look back now, I really do think it started back at when my son was born. During that process of childbirth, women go through a whole lot of things during those years of childbirth. Your body goes through so much, and some people exhibit more things than others. And I have a lot of friends now that are learning the same thing I've learned. 14 years ago, they had a child. They're experiencing some of the same exact system of progress that I had gone through. So it's really scary. So I say all this because I had gained a lot of weight. I was almost at 200 pounds. And I was very frustrated, and I was going to show you. I'm not very tech savvy, I'm sorry. I was going to bring my before and afters to show you, but anyway, my energy level was very low. My brain fog was very high, unfortunately. And I have a friend who we kind of talk about a lot of this. We both struggle with these issues. And I've homeschooled until this year. Actually, it's the first year my oldest homeschooled until college, and my youngest went to school for the first time this year. He's in 8th grade. And so she and I were homeschoolers, and we would talk occasionally. We would see each other weekly at some things. And one day I saw her, and actually today is the anniversary of that day. This day last year, January 27th, I saw her, and she was a person that I had actually kind of distanced myself from slightly because it was just bringing me down so much because of her negativity. As much as I loved her, I was having to be careful with my boundaries of that because it was just bringing me down because I wanted so badly to help her understand how she could help herself. But, somebody doesn't, you can lead a horse to water, right? I was so discouraged for her and sad for her. And so I was thinking, I can't bring myself any lower. I'm already having my own struggle. She walks up to me that day in my car. We're talking. She's bouncy. She like true pep in her step. Her whole face had changed. Her skin was glowing. Her countenance, I don't know that I've ever known her to be as cheerful and bouncy as she was. She'd lost 17 pounds from the time I'd seen her before Christmas. Or really beginning of January, And it was amazing. I was just like, my son looks at me, and she had to walk over to her car for a minute. He says, "Can somebody's skin actually glow?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Hers is glowing, is it not?" And he said, "Yeah, it's really kind of weird." And I said, "It's really neat." So I said, "Okay, I got to know what you're doing. What are you doing?" She says, "Well, I'm doing this book. There's this thing you've heard of Engine 2, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I have all their books." She says, "Well, they have a brand new book that just came out called The 7-Day Rescue Diet." I said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, you just do, it's whole food, plant-based." And she said, "I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 17 pounds. Who knew, right?" I'm standing there looking at her thinking, you feel wonderful, and I can see it in your eyes, and I want that, okay? I want that because I know that I'm at a place that I've been about the lowest of lows in my life, and I've got all these years in front of me. My mom's 84, and I'm sitting here thinking, why am I not feeling, she didn't feel this way when she was my age. She wasn't having arthritis pain, and I was already developing RA, rheumatoid arthritis, which is the common thing for the Hashimoto's patient. Is the next thing to get is rheumatoid arthritis because it's an autoimmune as well. Very common. It's very sequential typically, and oftentimes multiple other autoimmune disorders. So I was really fearful about rheumatoid arthritis, and so I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I don't have any clue. And so I said, okay. So we leave, we part ways. I drive straight to Barnes & Noble, and bought a book. I could have bought way cheaper on Amazon, I can tell you that. But I wanted it right then. And so I bought this book right here called 7-Day Rescue Diet. Okay, I read it over the next 2 nights, finished the whole book. Very easy to read, very great, easy, fun book to read. If you've ever read any of their stuff, it's really good. February 1st, I started this diet. I said, I can do anything for 7 days. This might kill me, but it's probably not going to because she's had such good results, but I can do anything for 7 days. So I went whole food, plant-based, no oil, which is one of the most major keys to the whole thing. No oil. I ate greens 3 meals a day, which about killed me because I don't like greens, honestly. And so let me see. I was a vegetarian, right? Probably not the healthiest of vegetarians. And so you're not eating any processed food. You're not eating low refined sugar, actually pretty much no refined sugar, and low sodium. Now, I didn't think the sodium really mattered because I don't really have heart problems, those kind of things. 8.5 pounds down in 7 days, okay? Day 3, I didn't feel so great. Day 4, I felt incredible. About middle of the day, it dawned on me how good I felt. I was just doing some housework or something, and I just remember kind of pausing and thinking, wow, I feel really good today. I felt energetic. I felt clear-minded. Clarity was wonderful. And I felt a moment of, and if you've had any of this, what I've been discussing, you'll really understand this. I felt like I could plan for tomorrow. Okay? There's something about when you're an overachiever, you've lived a very planned life. I was a homeschool mom all these years, right? So I've planned all these things out. But I couldn't even get it together to write a grocery list. That's how bad it had gotten. Very frustrating place to be because it's just not what you should be. You know that, right? You know in your heart, you know you shouldn't be there. So drastic changes in me. I go along, I have a lot of friends at church. I'm a leader at church. I'm on church board and stuff. And I was also health ministries leader. And so we had been remodeling our kitchen. And I'm an interior designer as well, so that was also my job. And remodeling our kitchen at church, I should say. And so we had, for 5 years, we've done consistent cooking schools every month for 5 years. And had okay response. We have a typical standing 7 to 8 people coming, and that are community besides our church members. And they really enjoy it. We've made really great relationships with them. And we've done a number of programs, all just typical vegan program. And we go along, we're remodeling, so we're in the middle of about 8 months of not having a cooking school. And so it comes down that we're starting cooking school. I had bought an Amazing Facts program, and we were going to do that one for our program. And it's a video program and stuff. We'd actually done Simple Solutions, the Food for Thought, which was very well received, by the way, before that. And when I did that, about 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, we're having cooking school at 4 p.m. 10 a.m., I'm sitting there going through stuff, working on the presentation. I can't do it. I can't do this. I cannot stand here and tell everybody I can do 2 tablespoons of oil in this recipe. I can't stand here and tell them because I just went through all this for myself, and the oil has been the game changer for me. So I went through this process, and I was like, what am I going to do? It's 10 o'clock, 4 o'clock meeting. You know, we've got committee. So I texted the committee. There's 3 of us on there, 4 of us. And I texted them. I said, I'm sorry, guys. I'm the leader. I'm teaching this. I've got to change this. So I said, we're going to do salad. We've got salad. We're going to do dressings today because I have all the ingredients for dressings, and we will just do dressings. That's one of the biggest complaints anyway, is what do I put on a salad dressing? You know, how do I do an oil-free salad dressing? So we did an entire class on salad dressings, and phenomenal response. The next month, we had double the attendance. We did another thing based on just what I've been doing living, really. The next month, we had double attendance again, doubled from the second month. The 4th month, doubled again from that next month. And then we had, so it's just increased and increased. The most exciting thing about this is that about 4.5 months in, you know, I'm going to church every week, and And people are watching my countenance change. They've watched me over the years see all these things I've gone through, right? I mean, it's my church family. They've been watching, and what they started doing is my church embraced it. My church members embraced it. Now, we're always talking about reaching out to the community, but if we aren't living what we're saying, what do they see? And I wasn't doing it to be anything. I just did it kind of accidentally because I could do anything for 7 days. And I live in a 7-day increment every week. That's how I live. I think and produce my food and buy groceries, and everything I do is based on my 7-day program, or their 7-day program. And so that's just how I've been going. And so when I have people that are coming to our cooking school, members of our church that come and help us. One guy's lost 50 pounds now. He's so excited because he actually had, by Christmas, he had a size jeans that was his goal, getting in that whatever size it was. And he got those for a Christmas present, and had to take them back because he was already smaller than that. And just didn't think past that. And I've dropped 5 sizes. I'm smaller now than I was in high school. I felt as utterly compelled. Now, I'm an interior designer. I stay inside, and I like to be inside. I'm not much of I'll go camping with Pathfinders because I have a son, and I've done everything with them, right? But the older I get, the more motorhome oriented I am. And so, I am a person that prefers to stay inside. I'm not going to just naturally go out and do whatever. And so I feel compelled to go outside and get fresh air, sunshine, walk, run. I actually run now, which is actually crazy. So what I would like for you to understand, and I was going to show you a little clip of what I do for cooking schools. We do a whole food plant-based. We do no oil. We do no refined sugar or low refined sugar. We might use some maple syrup or something in a condiment or in a dressing or in something of that nature. We're not doing a lot of that. I just finished and had, I don't know how many people. I put this on Facebook, and I started, and I've got a list up here. I don't have anything real formal. I'm sorry. I'm not used to doing this with you guys, but I have my phone number on here, and I have my Facebook name if you want to friend me on Facebook. We started a group called Healthy by Choice. And we have had, in that, it's not a group, excuse me, I have to clarify. It's a page. On that page, there's a cooking school group, okay? So we are actually taking this where we can spread out, because most of our attendance and most of our awareness, I have people all over the country right now saying, oh, I'm doing that 7-day thing with you guys. I'm doing that. These are people, I have people, like 4 or 5 people in Texas, several people in Washington State, a couple of girls out in their whole families, it turns out. A lot of these people, their whole families are doing it and jumped on board with them. So the contagiousness of all of us living what we're doing is really strong. We want to invite you, if you want to come to our cooking school to see how it's done, to see what we're doing. We do serve a meal every time. We're not doing just samples because that's what we prefer to do because it's a combination of things. And we will be actually having our next cooking school is next Sunday. We've changed our time from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock because we have a lot of community members now that want to go back to church on Sunday night at 6. So, and we have a lot of church members that want to attend, but they don't want to drive after dark. So we have bumped it from 4 to 3. So keep in mind when you're planning things, keep in mind of what other people are going to do. If you're wanting your community in, be respectful of that. That's really been something that's been a great response. We've been doing 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon for 5 years. It's been a great time, but we're going to bump it up to 3, see how it goes. Next Sunday, if you want to learn how to do this, or if you want me to help you, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to come to your church. I can't come for free. You can come to my church for free and see how it's done. But I can't come for free because, it's a lot of time and involvement. But we also, if you have a church group that can run the kitchen and do all those things. That does save on the cost, and we can figure out those things. So I'm local. I'm right here in Ringgold. I have car, will travel kind of mode, and I work on my own business anyway. So please, if you want to contact me, feel free to. I really am very open. I am very, very passionate about this. Not sure how where it's all going to go and where God's going to lead with this, but the dynamic, we had 50-something people at our cooking school last month, and we did a 7-day challenge out of this. We just did a, which this is okay as long as it's not a profit thing. We can do that. But we did a 7-day challenge, which we had maybe, including the Facebook people, we probably had about 75 to 100 people participating, including the people all over that were messaging me back and forth. So I'm trying to streamline some of that time, and that's why we've done the Facebook group. If you're not using Facebook, we're doing this diabetes thing. We took a picture of this, and remember, pictures are worth 1,000 words, okay? In my design business, I can get work done so much faster. Take a picture with your phone of this kind of flyer or whatever you're doing, put it on your individual Facebook, make it where it says public, and then anyone in your friends group can share it to their friends and in your local community. This is how we've tripled and quadrupled, is going by Facebook and passing it around among friends. So that's a huge thing. But if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. My name is Julie Hawthorne Thomas on Facebook. My cell phone, if you want to write it down, you can call or text me. Just if you text me, let me know who you are so I know what it is. 423-503-2336. And the group on Facebook is called Healthy by Choice, because everything we do is a choice. We choose health or we don't. We choose what we eat. We choose what we do every day. We choose to get out of bed. And it's all a choice. And when we get rid of our excuses is when we find our results. So those things are really important with just simple things. Remember the story of Daniel when his friends, they asked for 10 days. It was for their food change. What did they see? Their skin changed, their body countenance changed, their clarity of mind and thinking, we're told, was different. That is what happens, and that's what we've experienced in our group, and it's phenomenal. My story is not unusual, and it's just an amazing thing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie. Very good. How many appreciate that? And you heard her story, folks. That's why you're here. If she can do it, you can do it. So, these are things we're learning. Carolyn, would you come up and share? She didn't know she was going to be asked to share, but they're doing something. She'll tell you where and kind of what's happening and how they can start doing it if they're not already doing it. Oh, yeah, good idea. You may just have to hold this up if you want to. Put this in your hand.
Okay.
Tell them which church.
Okay. All right. I'm Carolyn Wood from the North River Church. We're over at the foot of Signal Mountain, and we're a plant from the Uqua Church. Our pastor is Pastor Mike Pettingill. I'm sure a lot of you know him. This will be on February 12th. We're going to host our third dinner with the doctor. We're a very small church, and if we can do it, I think you all can. It's a lot of fun. It's some work, especially the first time to plan it. We use our membership to help plan it, and we have some pretty good cooks. We do a whole food. We do a whole food-based diet. I think the first time we did soups and salads. And then we did what we called it the Buddha Bowl. Pastor Mike asked us to call it Daniel's Dinner, where it was just all cold foods, where it was whole grains, it was salads. You could just make a big bowl of salad. We had garbanzos and that type of thing. Dr. James Markham is the doctor that that comes and, well, he was here earlier, wasn't he? And I think this time we're talking about, it's cardiac, we're doing it in February, Heart Month. The first one was how we led into the diabetes seminar that we teach at our church, which we went to Stephen and Karen's training. We teach that twice a year. And we got a really good response by the dinner with the doctor subject the first time was diabetes. We had already advertised that diabetes seminar was coming up, but we had people that came to the dinner. We did advertise that in the newspaper, and we got a very good response from that. The last one, we didn't get a whole lot of newspaper response, so this time I'm trying Facebook, word of mouth, emails, and phone, because we have a very small budget. We're a very small church. I think we have 50 members, but usually just about 20 to 30 regularly attend. So, but you can make it fun if you don't try to do it all yourself, because I have a hard time delegating, and it gets a little stressful sometimes, but if you will delegate and get a good group of working people, you can. And we have people from the community. We have people in our, one of the reasons that I chose diabetes as our first one is we have a number, our church group is an older population, and we have at least 5 or 6 people with diabetes type 2. So the first time we did the diabetes seminar, I did it just in-house. I asked them to come so I could practice on them, because I knew if I told them they needed to come to a diabetes seminar, they would say no. So they all did come. Some of them I have seen some improvement. Some of them are 60 and 70 years old, and he says, well, I've lived this long this way, and he didn't really have the desire to change, but I'm still working with him. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, how about standing up for about a minute? And what we're going to do now, there's one person, I don't think she's here yet. She may not make it. I'll comment on that in just a minute. And then we're going to move quickly. So far, it's all been about health. I do need to tie in, and health people need to hear this too, as far as some things on personal ministries, because we've asked you to come. How many personal ministries leaders do we have here? Okay. All right, we're going to go quickly in just a moment. Make sure that the sign-in sheet that's going around, that you put your name if you're a health or personal ministries leader, and put HM for health ministries, PM for personal ministries, and a phone number, because especially if you're new, we sometimes don't get that information for a few months at the conference office, and you can miss a lot of things. Okay, if you want to sit down, we'll try to go very quickly. Let's look at your folder yourself now. I want to go through the some of the things just quickly. We're on the left-hand side. We'll go ahead and finish up on health. You'll see a fact sheet in there, some announcements, and so forth. There is a website for the Georgia-Cumberland Conference. Also the Southern Union. Lionel LaMountain is the Southern Union person. There are a lot of health programs out there that you can use. Okay, I've got examples up here on this table. Vicki Griffin of the Michigan Conference. Somebody's alluded to a couple of her programs. You can see them in the boxes. You can look at that if you're not acquainted. We had her at camp meeting, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. Win Wellness is a program, there's Don Hall's program. Don Hall has probably more videos and CDs and DVDs than anybody, that information should be in here also. Lionel stresses creation health, and we have him at camp meeting this year at Collegedale. So if you're interested in creation health, you can find out quite a bit at camp meeting. And also the next sheet, there it says Be Well. Now she was supposed to be here. She probably didn't make it. She does our health testing. It's a gray sheet, I believe, or blue. I don't know what color it is. She does all of our health testing for the pastors and teachers. And she is willing to come to your church. And I can tell you that the testing with them is cheaper than if people go to the doctor's office. She will also be at camp meeting. She does 2 days there on camp meeting. I believe it's Thursday morning and Friday morning. How many of you have taken advantage of that in the past? Some of you have. But she is willing to actually come to your church, and it can be an outreach in the community. So you'll find that over there on the left-hand side as far as Be Well. I do health rallies in churches. When I come to your church, it's 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. As I've already told you, we put a big stress on the exercise factor. There's examples of it in your sheet. I believe the only church I'm scheduled in this area this year may be Hickson. At the back on the left, you'll see this sheet to give you ideas. You can get this from Advent Source, but I've got some right up here if you want one. It will give you ideas and all kind of things, okay? Also, if you're a new leader, pick up this little booklet right here. This is for beginning health leaders, personal ministries leaders, and prison ministries leaders. The things on this table you cannot take, but you can look at, okay? There's a book here on the 7-day, the full-place diet, and there is a folder here on creation health. If you want to pick that up, you can. I said you can't, but you can pick up this on creation. Don Hall's programs, there's some books right here that you can look at. This one is reversing diabetes. There's one here on heart disease. And this one is healthy living. And all these are great programs. We've had him numerous times at camp meeting. All right, let's go to the right-hand side on prison ministries. Remember, these things are loaded with information to help you. One of the things we do in health is an exciting health happening newsletter twice a year. We ask churches, tell us what you're doing. We then reproduce that to you, and it gives you all kind of ideas of what that is happening in other churches that you can do, okay? Personal Ministries does not have a newsletter by us, but the North American Division puts out one. And the Southern Union leader is David Long, and he has a training event actually coming up for prison ministries March 17 and 18, I believe it is. I'm not sure of the date of the personal ministries training, so it should be in this side. This is critically important. Information for Sabbath school leaders and personal ministries leaders on the North American Division level has been festivalofthelaity.com. That's all switching over to adultministries.org. And folks, there's all kind of things there that can help you in prison ministries from the North American Division. One thing I want to focus on that right-hand side, as far as something that you can do that's very practical, has to do with our Bible research program. Bible research is, and I know you've heard of a lot of Bible study programs out there, but if you've not heard of this one, it's very simple. We have the most results with this than any lessons out there. 66% of the people that start this will finish. Nothing comes close to that. Pick up some of these before you leave. If you want to pass them out in your church, I'll send you whatever number you want. It's a very simple thing. Now, a critical point to this, and we have about 1,200 people taking Bible lessons right now at an all-time high. This is very simple. Just fill in the missing version of Bible text, then they can just put a stamp on here and send it right back in. It's got the address on there. I have 34 video Bible studies that's connected part of this. I've given you a sheet. It's right there on your at your table. It says Bible Research across the top. You can open it up and see all the different subjects that are there. These are not sermons. I can tell you, folks, that most of the baptisms are coming from looking at these DVDs and CDs. When they finish Bible research, we send Prophecy of Hope. If you're not familiar with Prophecy of Hope, 26 lessons covering all the major doctrines, and it's also filling in the missing words of Bible text. The reason this is so successful, the average American reads on about a 6th grade level. If they have to read through things like Discover is one they have to read. One year we had 1,009 people start Discover, 10 people finished. I thought, what's wrong with that? Well, a lot of people can't read, so they just don't do it. This is a little simpler, and this is pretty simple. They just fill in the missing words of the Bible text. Now, when they finish Bible research, we send them information about the DVDs and CDs that are free or the Bible studies that are on the internet. All these are the same message. Let me just give you a little idea of something that happened. I mean, we get calls just about every day in regards to this program. We're getting about 20% right now of the 1,200 Bible studies coming off the internet. People can go on the internet. The first few years, the thing they were looking at most of all was the state of the dead. We never start evangelism series with the state of the dead. That's what people were looking for. Now it's kind of spread out a little bit more. We've got more people watching Peace in the Storm and so forth. But anyway, I got a call one day from a guy in West Virginia, and he said, I found you on the internet, and he said, I want you to know that you sent me a Bible lesson, and when you sent me the Bible lesson, you also sent this book right here, Passion of Love. How many of you are familiar with this book? Now, folks, I don't see very many hands, so you need to get this from this is excerpts from Desire of Ages, chapters from Desire of Ages, covering mostly the crucifixion. And we have people asking for a large number of these to pass out in their church. Something interesting is it's got E.G. White right on the front. I have not heard one person yet comment on that. So this guy said, you sent me this book, Passion of Love. He said, that is the best book I have ever read outside of the Bible. And he said, I have a company that puts free religious material out there. He said, I have 70 organizations right now. He said, would you mind if I put Bible research on there? And I said, of course not. And so this is just a little bit of example. I could tell you stories literally all day long. And the reason I'm telling you this, personal ministries leaders and health leaders, it is a very simple way to take these cards, like I've got in my pocket right here. There's whole boxes right here. And you can take these cards and just give them out everywhere you go. If I go to a restaurant, I give it to waiters and waitresses. I give it out anywhere. I just say, hey, there's free Bible lessons on the internet. We check into a motel, whatever. I mean, we were in Tifton, Georgia, and the same girl was at the desk that was there last year when I was down there, and she said, oh yeah, I remember you. I said, didn't I give you one of my cards? She said, yes, I had it, and I have been watching it. See, the Holy Spirit can impress people that are looking for truth. Now, we've talked all afternoon about health programs as an entering wedge. But I'm telling you from a personal ministry standpoint, here's something that's very simple. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we were in Atlanta last week. It was Tifton 2 weeks ago. There's a lady that has passed out 24 boxes of these cards. There's 250 cards in a box. And she actually has trouble walking. She's passed out all these cards. We have no idea till we get to heaven the results of these. Right down here at Stanford Gap. I'm telling you folks, right up this road, I was born right there where the nursing home is. My parents lived in a tent, and we had a little house. I don't remember all that because I was born there. But just past somewhere close to Stanford Gap, and I think it's the hill just past the Stanford Gap Church. One day I got the Bible lesson, or wherever I dropped it here, this one, okay. And the girl sent me a letter, and she said, I just wanted you to know that I came home one day. She said, I was divorced. I have 2 young kids. She said, I was tired. I found your Bible lesson on my front door. I just threw it in the back room. She said, 6 months later, I found it, sent it in, and she said, I took your lessons. I just wanted you to know that I am a Seventh-day Adventist today, somewhere here in Chattanooga. We don't even know who left that there. But someday when we get to heaven, I'm sure she'll find out. So this is just folks, I would like to at least take a box to your church and just pass them out to people. Tell them to take them to friends and relatives, places where they work. I'm telling you, I get calls. I got a call one day, a lady said, I just found your card on my desk at work. I don't know who left it there, but would you please send me whatever she asked for? And so, I could tell you stories all day like, literature evangelist. I'm not going to do that because you've been here a while. But I can only impress because I don't get into most of your churches. You know, we got about 200 church groups in this conference. You know how hard it is to get into churches. And so this is a simple way to advertise, to spread the gospel, and the Holy Spirit can lead people to looking for truth. Okay? All right, on the right-hand side, I think that most of the information that's in there you can read and understand. I'm going to close up in a moment on the video portion so we can ask any questions about anything that's happened this afternoon. I will come to your church and help you. I would say I'll come and do a health rally or a personal ministers rally, but I think I only have 2 dates on my schedule for this year, and I think that's November. But if you're interested, you can call and I'll see. But if you need me, since I live right here in the area, I would always come to your church and help you with suggestions. Some other things that are going on in this area that I know of, and a number of churches are reaching into helping the homeless. Some have a tremendous feeding program for the homeless. And I know you're doing a lot of other wonderful things. How many of you are leaders for the first time? Okay. That means most of your experience, which may mean you know more than I know or anybody else. So go through this folder, though, with suggestions, because I think it'll help you. With your committee. And so I don't think, what I'm going to do at this point, Brian, is sign off on the video, because I need to talk to y'all now about things that are up here on the table. So I think we'll just stop right there, okay?